winter of 2025, Trump once again became the center of global media attention. In a grand press conference, he boldly declared, "Greenland and the Panama Canal are key pieces in America's global strategy for the 21st century." This was not his first time expressing interest in Greenland. Back in 2019, he had proposed purchasing the region for $6 billion, but was met with a cold rejection from the Danish government. Now, he has returned to the issue with a more assertive stance. As for the Panama Canal, he stated, "Losing control over this canal was one of the greatest mistakes in our strategic history." These remarks sparked a major stir in the international community, bringing us back to the core of the Make America Great Again dream, prompting us to explore why Trump is so fixated on these goals and the feasibility of such a plan. Welcome to Black Bloc Hong Kongers, your go-to channel for in-depth discussions on international politics and global crises. Stay tuned as we uncover the truths behind the headlines. Like, share, and subscribe to join our community of critical thinkers. Greenland is the largest island in the world, spanning the Arctic Circle with an area of over 2 million square kilometers. However, more than 80% of the island's land is covered by a thick ice sheet several kilometers deep, making it appear as a desolate, barren land. Beneath this ice and snow, however, lies immense potential that could reshape global geopolitics. Greenland's geographical location is of great strategic significance, positioned between North America and Europe. It lies at the heart of the North Atlantic shipping routes. Additionally, it is close to the Arctic region, making it a focal point for the competition between the United States, Russia, China, and other major powers in the Arctic. With the impact of global warming, Arctic shipping routes have gradually opened, particularly the Northeast Passage along Russia's northern coast and the Northwest Passage through the Canadian archipelago. These new routes shorten trade distances between Europe and Asia, creating entirely new possibilities for global trade. Greenland is a crucial node in these shipping routes, making it a highly contested area. Despite most of the land being covered in ice and snow, Greenland holds vast natural resources underground, including rare earth elements, which are key materials for producing electronics, electric vehicle batteries, wind turbines, and other high-tech products. The global supply of rare earth elements is heavily dependent on China, but Greenland is considered to have rich rare earth deposits, potentially becoming a vital alternative source for global supply chains. The Arctic region is believed to hold 25% of the world's undiscovered oil and natural gas reserves, and Greenland is located at the heart of these reserves. As the ice sheet melts, the cost of extracting these resources will decrease significantly, attracting the attention of global energy giants. In addition to rare earths, Greenland also has resources such as iron ore, uranium, zinc, and gold. These mineral resources provide potential development opportunities for the local economy and also attract foreign investors' interest. The development of Greenland's resources and its growing geopolitical value are closely tied to the melting of the Arctic ice sheet. As global warming continues, the Arctic ice sheet is rapidly retreating, creating conditions for resource extraction and the opening of new shipping routes. However, the melting ice also brings a series of environmental and security challenges. Resource extraction could disrupt local ecosystems. Greenland is home to polar bears, seals, and other wildlife, and extraction activities may lead to habitat destruction, further threatening global climate stability. Competition for Arctic resources is intensifying, escalating regional tensions. For example, Russia has established new military bases in the Arctic and strengthened its military presence in the region. China, under the guise of economic cooperation, is attempting to increase its control over Arctic resources. This makes Greenland a key outpost for the United States in countering Russian and Chinese expansion. Although Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, It has a high degree of autonomy, with its domestic affairs nearly entirely controlled by its local government, while Denmark is responsible for foreign and defense matters. The region has a population of only 56,000, most of whom are Inuit people, who approach local development activities with caution, concerned about the impact of foreign powers on their traditional culture and natural environment. When Trump first proposed purchasing Greenland in 2019, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen bluntly responded, "This is an absurd idea." This incident reflected Denmark's firm stance on Greenland's sovereignty. Greenland's autonomous government also made it clear that the region's development should prioritize the interests of its people rather than foreign powers. In recent years, the Arctic has become a hotspot for international disputes. Countries like Russia, Canada, Norway, and the United States, all members of the Arctic Council, have submitted claims to extend their control over Arctic resources. China, as a near-Arctic state, has also participated in Arctic affairs, proposing the Polar Silk Road Plan, attempting to extend its economic influence into the region. Against this backdrop, Trump's renewed interest in Greenland will undoubtedly further escalate international tensions. Greenland may appear to be a cold and barren wilderness, but it holds immense economic and strategic value. These potentials have made it the focal point of the Arctic power struggle. For the United States, Greenland is not only a treasure trove of resources, but also a crucial leverage point in countering Russian and Chinese expansion in the Arctic. However, as the region is developed, balancing environmental protection, local autonomy, and international cooperation will become a challenging issue. Trump's fixation on Greenland is not merely a geopolitical consideration, but also a profound economic and resource strategy. Rare earth elements are the cornerstone of 21st century high-tech industries. From smartphones to wind turbines, to electric vehicle batteries and defense equipment, rare earth elements are ubiquitous in modern economies and military industries. However, global rare earth supply is highly concentrated in China, which controls approximately 85% to 90% of the world's production. This has put the United States at a strategic disadvantage in the rare earth supply chain, especially amid escalating economic and technological competition with China. According to geological surveys, Greenland holds some of the world's largest rare earth deposits, including those in the southern Kvanefjord region. These deposits are rich in rare earth elements and uranium, and they are expected to become a significant source of global rare earth supplies in the coming decades. If the US can directly control Greenland or collaborate with the local government, integrating these resources into its supply chain, it could effectively reduce reliance on China's rare earths and enhance its competitiveness in the global market. Control over Greenland's rare earth resources would not only reduce the US's supply chain risks, but also stimulate the revival of American manufacturing. This would encourage more high-tech companies to relocate manufacturing and assembly facilities back to the US, creating tens of thousands of jobs locally. At the same time, exports of rare earths could increase US economic income and bolster its influence in global markets. Greenland's ice-covered and coastal areas are believed to harbor rich oil and natural gas resources. According to estimates by the US Geological Survey, the Arctic region holds 13% of the world's undiscovered oil reserves and 30% of its natural gas reserves, with a significant portion located within Greenland's exclusive economic zone. As global warming causes the ice sheet to melt, the extraction of these energy resources becomes more feasible. At the core of US energy strategy is maintaining dominance in the global energy market. By controlling Greenland's oil and gas resources, the US could further reduce its dependence on energy imports from the Middle East and Russia. By increasing supply, it could weaken the bargaining power of other energy exporting nations, such as Russia and Middle Eastern countries. Energy exports could also serve as a diplomatic tool, influencing the energy choices of allies and competitors. However, extracting oil and gas from the Arctic presents technical and environmental challenges. Harsh climate conditions and high extraction costs may limit short-term economic returns. Furthermore, growing international concern over climate change could lead to resistance against Arctic energy extraction. As the Arctic ice sheet gradually melts, new maritime shipping routes are emerging. In particular, the Arctic Passage connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans holds significant trade value. These routes can reduce shipping time and distance between Europe and Asia. For instance, the Northern Sea route shortens the journey by approximately 30% to 40% compared to the Suez Canal. If the US can control Greenland and directly participate in the development and management of the Arctic shipping routes, it could influence the flow of goods between Europe and Asia and have a decisive impact on global shipping costs and prices. Fees for using the routes and the construction of associated infrastructure, such as ports and refueling stations, would provide the US with stable economic income. Through control of these routes, the US could strengthen its leadership in the Arctic region in cooperation with its allies, while containing Russian and Chinese expansion. The opening of Arctic shipping routes would radically alter global trade routes, reducing dependence on traditional routes like the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal. This is not just an economic transformation, but also a geopolitical reshuffling. By controlling Greenland, the US would no longer be dependent on foreign rare earth supply, achieving autonomy in its technological industries. It could increase global energy supply, weakening competitors' geopolitical and economic influence. Controlling Arctic shipping routes would place the US in an irreplaceable position in global trade competition. However, this strategy also faces significant economic and political costs. Opposition from the international community, protection of local autonomy, and environmental risks could all pose major obstacles to Trump's plan. Even so, from an economic perspective, Greenland's resources and strategic value undoubtedly present an immense opportunity for the United States that cannot be ignored. In the great geopolitical game of the 21st century, the Arctic is rapidly becoming the core stage for competition among nations, involving not only the struggle for resources, but also the redistribution of global influence. For the Trump administration, Greenland is a key pivot in this chess game, essential for countering Russian and Chinese influence and maintaining America's geopolitical advantages. Russia is one of the most active participants in the Arctic, possessing a 24,000-kilometer Arctic coastline. Its geographical advantages led it to focus on the Arctic's strategic value as early as the Cold War period. In recent years, Russia has been strengthening its military presence in the Arctic, reviving Cold War-era military bases, deploying icebreaker fleets, and establishing permanent military installations within the Arctic Circle, including radar stations, airports, and missile defense systems. Russia's strategic goal is to secure control over Arctic shipping routes, especially the Northern Sea route, and assert its sovereignty over Arctic resources, which directly conflicts with US interests. China, as a near-Arctic state, has been actively expanding its economic influence in the Arctic through its Belt and Road Initiative. China has proposed integrating Arctic shipping routes into the Belt and Road Framework, and has been cooperating with Russia to develop Arctic energy resources. Chinese companies have shown significant interest in Greenland's infrastructure and resource development, such as investing in rare earth mining projects in the southern part of Greenland and attempting to build strategic facilities like airports. This has raised significant concerns in the US about China's intentions. The Arctic Council is the main international body responsible for coordinating Arctic affairs, with member countries including the US, Russia, Canada, and Nordic countries. However, as the Arctic strategic value increases, this cooperative platform is gradually evolving into a competitive arena, with nations intensifying their struggles for resources and sovereignty. leading to escalating regional tensions. Greenland's location at the intersection of North America and Europe makes it a strategic gateway to the Arctic. Control of the island would mean control over access to the Arctic. Additionally, Greenland's western coast is near Canada, and its eastern coast is close to Iceland, making it an ideal location for US military deployments in the Arctic. Greenland is home to the US Thule Air Base, a critical component of the North American Aerospace Defense Command (NORAD), responsible for monitoring missile and air threats in the Arctic region. If the US were to incorporate Greenland into its territory, it would not only strengthen its defense network, but also position itself advantageously in any future Arctic conflicts. US control over Greenland would effectively prevent Chinese economic penetration in the region, while weakening Russia's influence in the Arctic, countering the joint strategic efforts of the two nations. Greenland's special status makes it an important part of NATO's strategy. Denmark, as a NATO member, has formal sovereignty over Greenland, but in the face of US pressure, its position appears vulnerable. The relationship between the US and Denmark could become strained due to Trump's proposal to purchase the island, but cooperation within the NATO framework remains indispensable. From the US perspective, Greenland is not only a strategic asset, but also a tool for signaling its commitment to Arctic security to NATO allies. Trump's interest in Greenland reflects his administration's America First geopolitical strategy. Trump aims to enhance domestic support by demonstrating his government's protection and expansion of US interests. If successful, he could present this historic deal as a political legacy comparable to the Louisiana Purchase or the Alaska Purchase in US history. Trump's proposal has sparked significant controversy both domestically and internationally. The Danish government explicitly rejected the offer to sell the island, calling it absurd and asserting that the US action was colonial in nature. Greenland's autonomous government has stated that the island's future should be decided by its people, not foreign powers. Some members of Congress are skeptical of the purchase proposal, deeming it costly and politically unrealistic. Additionally, environmental groups are concerned about the potential environmental damage from developing Arctic resources. The resource development and strategic competition in the Arctic region make it an essential component of the great power competition strategy. As nations vie for Arctic resources and shipping routes, the risk of military confrontation in the region increases, and tensions between the US and Russia may spill over into the Arctic. China will continue to seek to strengthen its influence in the Arctic through economic means, which will further raise US concerns and countermeasures. Although the Arctic Council is currently the main platform for cooperation, its role may be diminished as conflicts of interest intensify. The competition among the US, Russia, and China will become more intense. From a political standpoint, Trump's interest in Greenland is not just based on short-term gains, but is part of a broader strategic layout to counter Russian and Chinese influence and solidify US dominance in the Arctic. However, domestic and international opposition, as well as the firm stance of Greenland's autonomous government, make the purchase plan difficult to achieve. In the future Arctic geopolitical game, Greenland will remain a key focal point of competition, and the rivalry between nations will continue to escalate. How the US responds to this situation will determine its long-term influence in the Arctic region. Greenland's military value lies not only in its geographic location, but also in its potential as a hub for defense networks, intelligence gathering, and military operations in the Arctic region. The United States' interest in Greenland reflects a strong desire for military dominance in the Arctic. Located at the center of the Arctic Circle, Greenland's geographical advantage makes it a critical hub connecting North America, Europe, and the Arctic. From a military perspective, controlling Greenland means controlling Arctic airspace, which is crucial for maintaining US global military dominance. The Arctic is the shortest route for Russia to launch missile attacks, which makes Greenland a key component of the US North American Aerospace Defense Command NORAD defense network. Whether it's for intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, or hypersonic weapons, Greenland provides the ideal location for early warning and interception. Losing control of Greenland would significantly weaken the integrity of America's northern defense line. Greenland's proximity to northern Europe and the east coast of North America allows the U.S. to rapidly project military power into the Arctic and northern Atlantic regions. At the same time, Greenland provides a critical monitoring point for U.S. military surveillance of Russian naval activities, particularly the Russian Northern Fleet's nuclear submarine forces. Thule Air Base is the US military's northernmost facility, established during the Cold War as part of the US Ballistic Missile Early Warning System MUSE. The base is equipped with advanced radar systems that can monitor ballistic missile activity in the Arctic and provide early warning information for the US and its allies. The base plays a crucial role in ongoing surveillance of Arctic airspace, providing tactical support for US and NATO air operations. It also supports the US Department of Defense's global satellite communications network and serves as an important intelligence collection point in the Arctic region. If the US were to fully control Greenland, the military value of Thule Air Base would be further enhanced. With complete control over Greenland, the US could deploy more advanced radar and sensor systems on the island, significantly improving its ability to detect hypersonic weapons and intercontinental missiles. The US could also expand the base's functions, including the deployment of bombers, drones, and naval vessels, making it a core hub for Arctic operations. Russia has always regarded the Arctic as a core area of its strategic interests and has invested heavily in building military infrastructure there. Russia operates the world's largest icebreaker fleet, enabling it to maintain a persistent military presence in the Arctic. Russia has constructed more than 50 military facilities in the Arctic Circle, including permanent military bases, radar stations, and missile defense systems. The strategic nuclear submarines of Russia's Northern Fleet frequently operate in Arctic waters, posing a direct threat to the US. For the US, controlling Greenland would provide a direct platform for countering Russian military activities. By using Greenland as a monitoring base, the US could conduct round-the-clock surveillance of Russian naval activities in the Arctic, particularly those involving nuclear submarines and icebreakers. By deploying more advanced weapons systems in Greenland, such as missile defense systems and long-range bombers, the US could effectively deter Russian military adventurism. Although China has not yet established a direct military presence in the Arctic, its economic penetration and near-Arctic status suggest a militarization tendency. China has established multiple observation stations in the Arctic under the guise of scientific research and economic cooperation, and these facilities could have military applications, such as monitoring shipping lanes and collecting data. Additionally, China's cooperation with Russia on Arctic energy and infrastructure indirectly supports Russian military activities. As China's navy becomes more globalized, it may seek to establish military facilities in the Arctic in the future. If the US controls Greenland, it could effectively prevent China from establishing economic or military footholds in the region, ensuring that the military balance in the Arctic develops in a direction favorable to the US. If Trump were to successfully purchase Greenland or otherwise enhance U.S. control over the region, the US military strategy would include deploying more missile defense systems, radar facilities, and naval bases on Greenland, further strengthening the Arctic region's defense capabilities. Greenland's geographical position allows US forces to rapidly project power in the Arctic, addressing potential threats. Using Greenland as a platform, the US could work with NATO allies to address military challenges in the Arctic and further contain Russian and Chinese influence. From a military perspective, Greenland is an irreplaceable strategic asset in the Arctic. It is not only a critical component of the U.S. missile defense and early warning systems, but also a frontline fortress for countering Russian and Chinese military challenges. Controlling Greenland would solidify the US's military dominance in the Arctic, while ensuring the integrity of North American defense systems. However, due to opposition from Denmark and Greenland's autonomous government, as well as the growing strength of Russian and Chinese forces, US military plans in the region will continue to face significant challenges. Thank you for tuning into Trump's vision of making America great again, the Greenland chapter. In the next episode, we will delve into the political, economic, and military reasons behind Trump's keen interest in reclaiming the Panama Canal. In this series, we aim to provide a comprehensive analysis of his overarching plans and strategies. Stay tuned for more fascinating insights. Thank you for watching BlackBlock Hong Kong's Global Insight Network. Like, share, and subscribe for in-depth analyses on international politics and critical issues. Explore these videos next and join the conversation for a more insightful world.